Hi guys, and welcome back to Paolo's channel. This is a brief overview about some of my productions. I'm really proud of this stuff because I'm not really a big producer of trans kit and models, but I'm so happy because I was anyway able to produce some of my favorite racer in 24 scale. Usually you can find from major company, from company that are in business since many years, and I don't consider myself neither in business. I just make it for fun and mostly for myself, because when I start to develop something, I always think at the following maybe evolutions of the model and so on. So I would like to have more than one, and sometimes when you create a master, is not so easy to finish it in the way that you can have only one, for example. And this is just a part of my production. As a ordinary modeler, I consider myself an ordinary modeler, so nothing exceptional. There is around people that is incredibly much more skilled than me, and I know that, so I'm okay with that. I have no problem being the best. I just want to be the one that can make it for myself, the stuff that I love, and I'm okay with it, And so the idea that I was able to anyway make it became reality, Every time I think any of you was talking with friends and modeling groups, probably also you was thinking to make something in resin and start a short production, but usually this stuff is extremely pricey and is also extremely tricky to arrive to an end, to arrive from the master production to the final resin production. These are all samples that I saved from my production. This was the last one for the 997 GT3R 2014 edition. This was the first NSX Acura Honda, the first car from 2018, and this is the latest production, so the Callaway C7R GT3 and the RWB narrow body. And down there is the best seller, the Italian Fiat truck, the buff for the Chinese 6, as they call it abroad. And from this overview of model, it's anyway missing something, because I saved this is the resin copies, the first resin copy of something that I wanted to save, but it is not the master. Every time that I produce a new model, I create a master, or modifying an already existing kit, or starting from scratch, so it depends, But the master, I always, after I talked with one of my idols, one of my favorite modeler, also incredibly skilled modeler and incredibly nice person, Luca Cavicchi is a quite famous Italian modeler that gave me some tips, because he's inside this kind of business since longer time than me, and he have a greater experience than me. And so he also told me, never touch your master. That is something that you have to keep like a reminder of what you did in the era when you did it. Some of these models are already going to be 7 to 10 years older, so it's always nicer to save and look after a while at your own skill as it was several years ago when you started, So it's absolutely nice. And from this list that I have here, because I just prepared this stuff to make a short video today and to talk about this stuff, from this list is anyway missing some other stuff that I made in the same way, and they were the G91T, the T conversion. Sorry for the background, you need some postal stuff, some garlic, some stuff. This is the kitchen of my little playground here in Italy, And so I was saying it is missing from this list the G91T, the ACV2 Lancia, the Dino that is back in production, but in very short numbers, because I had a request for them, so I made a little production more. That's why I made recently a video about that newer production, And then the seats, I made a Jackson seat for 132 F-104 Starfighter, the Italian version, so the G/S ASA version of the F-104, produced by Italy recently in 132 scale, as well as the 148 MK4 for the G91T, as well for the MK10 and 172 seats for Tornado planes and Macchi MB339, you know. So it's anyway also a little production. Is missing also the figure. So I made much more than this stuff. And about bodies, I think the most relevant missing, because it's currently to the caster, so probably will arrive quite soon. It's, for example, the NSX, but the Evo version that have been converted, and I will make a proper video when the parts will arrive, you know, and I modified some stuff. But I anyway wanted to keep the first edition, you know. So talking about this, as you can see, this was a great success, and nearly all this stuff was nearly sold completely out in neither the first 2 weeks when I said that I was making copy. This probably mostly because the car was mainly racing in America, so a lot of American modelers liked that. I remember Jim Drew made an excellent model with a kind of nightmare around the decals, he told me, but the model that he made was absolutely stunning. So for me it was absolutely nice to see so many skilled, great modelers to make them. Also many others American in the group made it a nice model, you know, nice model. Of course they are not easy. I mean, when you are talking of this kind of conversion, you have to remember that it's not something that the ordinary modeler will find it easy to build up. It's not that you simply make a plug and play model, you know. Probably that last one, that is my last models, are the real plug-in models. No, mostly I think the RWB. This is a model that I will build up probably very soon, because I like the car too much, and I think it's one of the best cast ever I had, because it kept a little more thickness, you know. I had issues in the first models, because first of all, you have to know that it's absolutely messy and hard to find somebody able to cast this model in a proper way, you know. Starting, of course, from a model, you have the thickness of the plastic that is not mostly in the roof area, that is not so much, you know. Our models is not like toys and die cast and so on, so they are quite thin, so it's extremely hard to find somebody able to do parts like this one. And I was lucky, because after a tip from DDP guy, you know, Paolone gave me a tip about, a hint about the guy that could make it, you know. And it was like, just like discover the warm water, because then I knew that I had already the contact of this person, but I never had the opportunity to find this caster and have a proper business with him, you know, because when you produce this stuff, it works that you arrive with a guy with a lot of nice ideas and a lot of purposes and a lot of positive vibes, you know, and then you crash into the reality of the production, the rubber, the silicone molds that sometimes should be are unable to take all the detail that you want, and you have to modify your master. You know, the master is a unique model that you have there, and you want them just to be reality and go on and keep your model finish it, you know, finish it and place it in your showcase. So sometimes you have to wait also for years. For example, also the Callaway as a production that was lasting, I think, since 2020 when I started the model, you know. So I'm so proud now to have that one available, that one, and casted so very well, so nicely done, you know, with details and squared parts, sharp edges. So I'm very happy with it, you know. As I said, when you produce stuff and you go scratch building, sometimes you have issues like, I remember that one of the issues that we had in this on the NSX was mostly around these side vents. You know, it's nothing so impressive to rebuild, so because you have a structure, so it's enough that you simply make a reinforcement from the inner side of the body, you know. This was probably the reason why I saved this body. But for example, in the newer edition, this is just experience for myself, because I understood that this part, exactly this part from the master, not from the copy, so it's not this part that has been copied, but it's the one from the original master, will be cutted and cast in a separate part. You know, the newer version will be cutted in the rear back of the car, so this side with the newer vents will be separated, you know. And I also decided, because my original idea when I wanted to recast this model, I had some requests about this car, and when I wanted to make a casting about this car, I just wanted to try to keep the production cost much lower, you know, because to cast bodies, consider that any of these bodies, as you well know, you always pay between $50 to $80, something like that. So they are pricey, they are absolutely pricey for the quality that you have. There is some alternatives that sometimes you can find from a Slot Racer body. I took some from Slot Fabric and from others, they make an excellent, nice body, but they are extremely thin and especially made for slot racing. So you will find absolutely nice shapes, and the proportion of the model are perfect, but when you go modeling them in our ordinary way, became extremely tricky, mostly because the one that I got was made in carbon fiber, so it is not so easy to work with them, and they have a lot of minor scratch over, so the material is a little different from our ordinary resin, and that's why also my friend Paul also wanted one of these. If I'm not wrong, also the Porsche I think he got. Yeah, I think so. He got all of them, and probably means that he appreciates he's an incredibly skilled modeler, a great guy, half Italian, he talks perfectly Italian too, so it was nice to have a deal with him, and we were so happy also to give him some stuff, Despite my name is Love GT40, Love GT40 Model Works, people that knows me call also just Paolo, that is my real name, and sometimes they also tell me, but Paolo, what do you call yourself as Love GT40 when you mostly produce Porsches, and that's right, that's true, that's because I basically love all the racer, and of course Porsche is being the main antagonist of our Ferrari, have been one of the most interesting racing car producer ever, and this body that I made, I think it was 3 or 4 years ago now, maybe more. It was the GT3R, was a very huge conversion starting from the Fujimi body. If you got the ordinary 2010 GT3R from Fujimi, you absolutely see at once that the flares are different, there is no vents, all the body is much thinner, is not wide like this, rear part is completely different, the front part is completely different, probably thinking back, but at the time I could not make it because I didn't have the person making it that I found later, but it's too later because the model was already sold out, to provide a little set of photo etched part. Now we can also produce also that, so it's not a problem any longer, just depending from the cost, because every time you have to really think if something absolutely necessary or not in a model to provide and add the photo etched parts. In this Porsche, the only issue that sometimes you can find is about this A-pillar, that sometimes is a little bit wrinkled, as here, but it's not so problematic to fix, it's not so common that you find a producer that anyway is presenting the issues that you had with the previous and with your first productions part, and I remember in this model the issues was mostly around just this pillar because the part was extremely thin, like from the original model from Fujimi, and but it was not anyway an issue. I built up 2 of these models, the model was probably my greatest success ever after that guy down there. So about racing car, this was the item that I sold more until today, And we are talking of quite decent numbers for this type of model. Consider that they are completely handmade. Each of them is handmade. There is no machines making this. There is a guy that make one by one. So you are buying basically an artisanal model, completely handmade in every details, And I remember when I built up the 2 models, I made the Falcon car and I made the Mantei Racing, a Nürburgring winner car. I made it in the Spa configuration, Spa 24 hours. And I remember when I built up the model that mostly this, that was looking a little delicate part, was not really an issue because it was in the model of the original Fujimi. You have the main windshield that completely keep it straight, forcing a little the parts, so it's enough that you place carefully the windshield in position and all this part becomes completely straight. I've seen an excellent model made by Bill Bauer, and there is now arriving another one from an incredibly skilled modeler from Germany, Michael Wilke, that was lucky because it took, I think, was nearly the last one that I had available for sale, and he get it, and he's making an amazing model. He's incredibly skilled. You know, some of the German guys, Sascha Muller and so on, they are incredibly skilled. So it's so nice for me to see these big guys making this kind of nice model using my part. You know, it means that it's not only me liking them, and it's not only me able to finish them. So it means that there is a lot of people around that just want to have them because they are specials. They are very, very nice models. So I'm glad with it. I'm so happy. Just hope that they enjoy it like I did, you know. These are the last one that I made. So I've already seen the presentations videos that I did, but you know, the casting here is even better than the previous one, because in these models the resin is a little bit thicker. Now I found a way to make them a little bit steady than the first one. And always, for example, in subjects like the RWB narrow body, it's always important, in my opinion, to have an entire body. I know that it costs a little bit more than do as some other producer did back in time. Also recently, because I found them also in eBay, just to, you know, the original idea should be like in the real car, to mold separately the fenders, the huge fenders that should be fitted over the body, remaking the narrow configuration of the car. Narrow body, yeah, not so much. I think it's a funny name, you know. But in reality, you will find a lot of trouble trying to fix, because all these curved parts and so on, they usually never fit to the original bodies. It's easier, it's cheaper, of course, to do the stuff, but at the end, you have a hell trying to give the proper proportion and the stance of the model. The stance in RWB, it's everything, you know, it's something that you have to think, that you have to plan when you want to produce a model. So I used the ordinary model. It was absolutely a very, very nice model from Fujimi, the Enthusiast model kit. So the bodies were absolutely very, very nice, but of course they just reproduced the ordinary 911S and the RSR, I think, version that was a little bit wider because it was the original car, so it was stuff made in the 70s, 72, 73, that kind of model. You know, instead that this RWB is basically a modern car. I think they are based over 964 series, which is an absolutely recent car from the 90s, you know, modern Porsche. And then they just retake the look. So in my opinion, in the model, you have to make the life extremely simple for somebody that want to build this stuff. I cannot expect people just to buy my parts, that may be the fenders being so thin and precise in the mold, you know. They can arrive wrinkled, then you have to cut the line of the rear bumper, the line of the front bumper, and the final lip under. So I was just thinking to make a unique piece of this. Then of course you can also make it little more engraved, the lines, the panel lines, the door. You can add your own detail. You can also change the final part. But my idea was in this latest model to give you a complete model of it. So this should be probably my real first plug-and-play model that you can use. So it's enough that you just, you see also the attachment down there of the chassis is the same from the original Fujimi model. It's enough that you cut the lower rear part near the engine, and the chassis will fit at once. The windshield is designed over that part, so you don't have to go mad with other parts and so on. So it should be extremely easy. We will discover it. I will discover it when I will finish this model. I'm planning to make quite a little group of them because they are extremely nice. You know, in this video I didn't take the small bits, the small part that you will find in some of my models. I remember that the NSX had all the option, because in the beginning I was making them also for slot racers, you know. Also the guy from the Caldoc took it, if I'm not wrong, but you can have, I added in this kit the mirrors, there was the rear wing, there was the complete set in 3D printed by KMP, of the wheels printed in 3D. Then I made the master and I cast them also in resin. So it was absolutely interesting, you know. So the bricks are not presenting because they are, in this kind of production, they are quite easy to do, you know. They are very easy to do and neither so expensive. So every time I try to add something more. I think in the newest model of the NSX I also will add at least a steering wheel and at least a racing seat, because it was a little tricky when I made my model to find something that was suitable. You remember that is made and designed to convert the street version of the NSX into the racing version, you know. So I had a lot of pictures from the manufacturer about the interior of the car, about the roll cage design and so on, and also about the engine part. You know, it was nothing so special. I mean, it was enough just to go to them. It was a company I worked with back in time, I think 15 years ago, like a truck driver. You know, it was their racing truck driver, my real racing experience, you know. And so the guy know me and allowed me to take picture of every detail I wanted. So the only tricky part was indeed to find the steering wheel and to find a correct modern racing seat, you know, that you can have, and then you can go on much more easy, in my opinion, with the finishing of the scratch build of the model, you know. The same for the colorway. The colorway was a challenge, you know, but I think it ended up with the proper casting. You see completely straight, sharp corners. It is not sucked like a candy, you know. Sometimes when you produce models in resin, it's very easy that the resin didn't come up as you expect. Instead, with this precision and so on, I think the result is taken, you know. And then there is the last guy. The last guy have been, these have been, you know, what to say, something really cool in my opinion, because it was a little, it's an Italian truck of the 50s, as many of you know, but the production was absolutely nice, because I love it so much. Also the material and all the development, you know. As I always say to the people that know me, the beginning of this model was starting just after I found an original. They call it today the blueprint, you know, with the size and the dimension of the actual cab. Always remember that Fiat, that Chinese 6, is the heavy version of the Fiat. Fiat had the production extremely similar in the 50s of the truck. So if you might find also the middle version, the medium capability version of this truck, that was the series from 639 to 642 and 643, they look similar to him. Like, for example, many asked me about the Ferrari Transporter. The Ferrari Transporter was not this heavy 682, was the smallest 643. They are extremely similar, but you recognize them from the position of the front main line compared to the starting of the Mustache on the front of the truck. So the light is a little deeper inside, and all the final part looks a little smaller, you know, in dimension and size. You know, they look extremely similar. So if you see just a picture of the truck alone, 643, you will say is exactly that one, and indeed is not. That's why every time I produce an item and I sell an item to a friend, I always provide pictures for all of my models. As much as I can, I want to give the greatest assistance ever, you know, because I think it's very nice to follow the model during the build-up of his model, to really walk with him in the journey to make a unique, stunning model of something that nobody have. If you finish them in a decent way, and there is several going around in Europe, in Germany, in Holland, many in Italy also, the greatest modeler of truck modeling are building up this model, took my cab, and they are making, I hope, really amazing stuff. So if they need something, just contact me, just ask me, and you will have all the knowledge that I had during the 10 years now of studying of this very interesting truck. So that's it. This is my production, and I'm quite proud of it, because as I said in the beginning of this video, it's not so easy that you make your own dream become true, and also it's not so easy that the people around you is appreciating that so much. So always thank you guys for everything. Thank you for your support. Thank you for everything. I will always be helpful to you, and if you have my models, just ask me, and we will find always the way to fix any kind of issues, any kind of issues you may have with my models. That's it. Thank you guys, and see you in the next video. Bye bye.